Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to my German Grand Prix preview. Now, the race in Germany is the penultimate one before the summer break, with of course Hungary coming up next week. And after what have been two absolutely brilliant races, I'd very much like more of the same this weekend, as I'm sure we all would. Honestly, it's not a race I tend to look for when the FIA publish the calendar, but it is often a race that I tend to enjoy and I often remember as well, so hopefully it delivers. With the summer break looming large, I'd usually sit here and talk about how pivotal the next two races are for the championship fight, but let's face it, the Constructors is pretty much wrapped up and it's surely going to take a mammoth effort for Valtteri Bottas to stop Lewis Hamilton from taking a sixth world title, perhaps a must-win for Bottas. 12 months ago though, both championships were wide open. Ferrari arrived in Germany leading both championships but left leading neither. It really was a title-defining weekend. I've had many discussions with people about this in the past. I've always felt like that was the moment that the title not was decided, because obviously mathematically it wasn't, it couldn't be, but that it was very much pivotal in the destination of that title. I still do not believe that Seb ever really recovered from what happened that weekend. But the start of last season leading up to Germany was absolutely brilliant. The championship lead was changing hands, it really was ebbing and flowing just all over the place. And then we got to Hockenheim and very much had that in one weekend. I remember doing the qualifying watch along, I think it was with Jonty a year ago. And as Lewis Hamilton was there, crouched down by the side of his car and eventually then trying to push his car back to the pits after it stopped on track, I remember saying that that is an image that we will remember. That is an image we will look back at as defining in this championship fight. And then 24 hours later, that all changes with Sebastian Vettel in the wall at turn 13. Or turn 12, depending on which track map you look at. That image of him walking away from the car and you just can imagine what he's screaming in his helmet. That is such a powerful image. One of the two biggest of the season. That and Bottas sat down in Baku after his puncture. Totally random tangent there, Sean. Back to the point. I just never felt, as I've already said, that Vettel recovered from that. And the fact he's not won since Belgium kind of reinforces that. And yeah, of course, Belgium came after Germany. But if you look at the mistakes he made for the rest of the season, Monza, his spin, hitting the wall in FP2 or FP3, I can't remember which, in Singapore, the incident in Japan, the incident in the US, all of that was a guy who had put himself under massive pressure and knew that he had to take those risks to get himself back into the championship fight. All because of what had happened at Hockenheim. It wasn't all about Sebastian Vettel, of course. There were team orders from Mercedes, which caused a little bit of controversy. Valtteri Bottas being told to hold station behind his teammate. Something which I still, controversially maybe, think that Mercedes were right to do in those conditions. Drivers off all over the place, championship rival in the wall. Why risk your two drivers colliding? There was also big controversy towards the end of the race as well, as Lewis Hamilton came into the pit entry after being instructed to do so by his team. He then saw that Raikkonen was staying out on track and decided to cut across the pit entry and rejoin the track, something we have seen penalties given for in the past, but he was not given one, much to the disgust of many people, I'm sure. All in all though, even if you push all of that aside, it was a fantastic race and a massive weekend in terms of the destination of the championship. Right then, if you saw the channel update last Saturday, you'll know there's going to be a few changes to videos, including previews. I'm currently working on ways to display the stats in a more interesting way rather than sitting here reading a really long-winded, dull script. It's not fun for me, and I can't imagine it's fun for you. What's going to be seen in this video is only part of the change though, and there should be some additions to this part from the Hungarian Grand Prix onwards. So, here we go. Let's have a look at some of the key stats ahead of this weekend's German Grand Prix. Should we have a look at some overtaking opportunities then around the circuit? I think that's a cracking idea. Turn 2 is probably the first opportunity of the lap. There is a DRS down that straight. Turn 1 is quite quick as well, so if drivers can get a good run out of that one, they could be set up quite nicely for a move. However, after drivers have made their way through Turn 3 and Turn 4, there is a long run down the straight, sweeping through Turn 5 and into the Turn 6 hairpin. And that straight also has a DRS zone, so there is a chance they'll be left vulnerable on that run to turn 6, but without any doubt that hairpin is the best overtaking opportunity of the lap. But we could see things get a little bit, I guess, tactical, in the sense that does a driver make a move into 2 or wait until turn 6 rather than risking losing that position again a couple of corners later. I will also note, whilst kind of talking about DRS zones at this point, there are only 2 this year, and the one that did run down the pit straight in 2018 has now gone, leaving just the DRS zones, as I've already talked about, between 1 and 2 and between turns 4 and 6. Turn 8 is maybe an opportunity. It is quite tight in that corner, but there is a very good fast run from the turn 6 hairpin and through the flat out turn 7, but it is a risky move. Turn 13 again, perhaps we've seen some moves in there in the past, but it certainly is not a gimme. In fact, that whole final stadium section is very tight and very technical, so I doubt we'll see too much in the way of overtaking through there. As always, of course, strategy will play a massive part in the race, as could the weather, as we tend to see at Hockenheim. It is quite tough to predict. In terms of strategy last year, Lewis Hamilton won with a 1-stopper, but Verstappen finished 4th, having stopped 3 times. Now, of course, rain and the safety car all played a big part in those 2 strategies, and in a number of other drivers' strategies. Who can forget that Toro Rosso on the wets? Oh, if that rain had come a little bit earlier, rather than waiting for the podium, that would have been an inspired call. What's going to make strategy interesting this weekend is the weather. As I've already said, it can be quite unpredictable around Hockenheim, but it is meant to be hot on race day, in fact hot all weekend, and that will absolutely have an impact, whether that's through more pit stops or through extra tyre management. Yay, everyone's favourite thing, tyre management. The forecast currently says it will be hot and dry for all 3 practice sessions, with highs on Friday of 36 degrees. No thanks, it's 33 in the UK at the minute and I'm baking. However, it is also forecast that it will be wet for qualifying, and there is a chance of rain on Sunday. In fact, just looking at the BBC weather app now, that is forecasting thunderstorms for Saturday afternoon and all day Sunday. I mean, we'll see, but that would certainly spice things up. What I will add, though, is that we've been promised rain for multiple races this season and it's never turned up. So let's work on the basis that it's going to be dry. So now I've said that, it's probably going to absolutely chuck it down, but never mind. If those temperatures get anywhere near what these apps and these websites are predicting, I'd be very surprised if we see just a 1-stop race. Just a few things I want to go over before I get on to predictions and whatnot. First up is Mercedes. They've got a one-off anniversary livery this weekend and it looks incredible. I absolutely love what I've seen so far. The team are celebrating 125 years of motorsport, and as well as teasing these images on social media of the livery, they have also gone for the vintage feel with their press releases and garages. It all looks brilliant. Very cool. Haas have confirmed that Romain Grosjean will be sticking with the team's Melbourne aero spec for the German Grand Prix after he said that he felt better in the car despite its, what he called, I think, limitations. Christ, does he need a good weekend, and so does Haas. No pressure. And yes, Romain Grosjean is in the car this weekend, despite the rumours that were circulating a couple of weeks ago. As for his teammate, when it comes to updates, he's going to be running a new aero package in Germany. There are also updates for Williams and Racing Point this time out. I did read over the British Grand Prix weekend that Racing Point were going to have a whole new car for Germany, but Otmar Safnauer has only said that they've got new aero developments, so maybe not as dramatic as expected. Dave Robson at Williams said in the team's preview that they were happy with the parts they tested at Silverstone and will be testing even more this weekend. It really does feel like baby steps at the moment for Williams, but I've got to say, just looking at the lap times and reading what the drivers say after races, there does at least appear to be some improvement. Of course, a hell of a long way to go yet. On to my predictions, and I'm going to do something a little bit different in just a moment, but on paper this should be a Mercedes weekend. However, what paper says is completely different to what happens on track. Good one, Sean. It's the temperatures that have got me wondering whether Mercedes are going to have it all their way this weekend. Austria was hot and they really struggled that weekend, so the heat could have an impact again. And Toto Wolff has kind of alluded to that himself, that the team need to be vigilant and aware of that. It's going to be interesting to see how they cope with that. And of course, if the rain comes on Saturday, that could be another curveball. But to be honest, we all know how good Lewis Hamilton is in the wet. So if it does rain on Saturday, it's probably likely he will still be on pole position. But on that note, do not write off Red Bull. They were surprisingly strong at Silverstone. I was really shocked by just how quick they were. So if they can unlock that pace again at Hockenheim, they could be sitting pretty. And again, if it rains, they could well challenge for the win. The rain is a great leveller, and that car historically is very good in wet conditions. Certainly at the hands of one Max Verstappen. But I've got to say, whatever happens with the rain, with the temperatures, whatever, I really do expect it to be tight again between Ferrari and Red Bull. If we can have that scrapping that we saw at Silverstone again this weekend, we could be on for another thriller. All of that being said though, I have to go with what my gut is telling me right now, and that is that Lewis Hamilton will stick it on pole position on Saturday and will probably go off and take the win ahead of teammate Valtteri Bottas. As for who ends up on the third step of the podium, it really could be any one of Verstappen, Vettel, Leclerc, or maybe if he finds his Silverstone form, possibly Gasly. Don't laugh. You can see my predictions on screen there, but who do you think will win the German Grand Prix? Top right of the screen behind that eye is another poll, and you can vote on there to have your say. So the new thing that I wanted to end some of these previews with is a kind of what I would like to see happen, or what would be awesome to happen, something like that. I don't know what it's going to be called. But for this weekend, I'm going to say that it would be great to see Sebastian Vettel take the win. Cue the fanboy chants. Something I personally really enjoy is seeing a driver get redemption. So Ricciardo in Monaco last year, Bottas in Baku this year. I love stuff like that. As I touched on at the start of the video, he's not won a race since Belgium last year, and he needs something this weekend, and it just feels like the perfect opportunity to get a win or just a great result and then kick on from there. Again, in my mind, there is no doubt whatsoever it was one of, if not the biggest factor in defining where that championship went last year. It was the moment his hopes just seemed to fall away. And it would be great if he could take that negative moment and turn it into a positive. I just feel like this could be the catalyst for a strong second half of the year. Now, of course, the title's gone. I don't expect that he'll win in Germany and then suddenly win every single race between now and the end of the season and cruise to a 5th world title. I'm not saying that. But a win at a racetrack where 12 months ago everything fell apart could just be enough for him to lift his head up again and get back to being the Sebastian Vettel that I don't care what anyone says, we all know is there. It just always reminds me of this phrase that Martin Brundle uses a lot, and that is that form is temporary and class is permanent. So yeah, of course, I would love to see a Racing Point nick a win, or Williams get some points, maybe Haas surprise us all. Yeah, of course, I still want those underdog things to happen. But for me personally, it'd be great to see Sebastian Vettel get a win, bounce back and really kickstart his season once again. That is it then for the German Grand Prix preview. Don't forget you can let me know your thoughts and of course your predictions ahead of this weekend in the comment section down below. Now, I will be back soon with more content as ever, but don't forget in the meantime you can follow me over on social media and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.